think there is only one stem cell type in the body. There's a universal stem cell, and you find it in every organ. You find it in the bone marrow, you find it in the blood vessels of every organ in the body. The question is, how can we recover most easily those cells? You also find them in the Wharton's jelly, in the umbilical cord, but nature does not have many type of stem cells. There's one universal stem cell which is located in the blood vessels throughout the body. And from those cells, then you derive what is called progenitor cells. So most people believe that progenitor cells are stem cells. I think the name is a little bit incorrect, because progenitor cells are tissue-specific cells. They already started to go in a certain direction. That means they have a certain lineage commitment. They can go in endo, ecto, mesoderm, and then further on they become organ cells. Either they form a parenchyme or they can become the mesenchyme, which is the house of an organ, and they become blood vessels. So in principle you find stem cells throughout the body. Every organ you take them, you can find them. The question is, how can we most easily harvest those cells? And the number of cells we find in the tissue and the damage we do. You can take them from the liver, you can take them from the heart, but that would not be a good idea because you damage the organs. You also can take them from the bone marrow, which is a traditional way to take stem cells. The problem with the bone marrow is that more than 99% of the cells you find in the bone marrow are already progenitor cells. That means they have started to differentiate in a hematopoietic lineage, either erythrocytes, lymphocytes, leukocytes, and few of those cells can turn into a different lineage. The number of truly pluripotent cells you find in the bone marrow is pretty low due to the rarity of blood vessels. So you waste a lot of valuable cells when you do a bone marrow puncture, and I don't know how the artificial aging of the bone marrow, when you take 250-300 million of valuable cells out of the bone marrow, will affect the long-term occurrence of like myelosclerosis and those things. We will see that in a couple of years, because each organ has a certain set of regenerative cells. And if you take a lot of progenitor cells out from an organ, you artificially age it, because the telomeres for regeneration of those depleted cells shortens. So you can take bone marrow cells, but I believe the most easy way and the highest number of cells you find is in the adipose tissue, because adipose tissue, most people have enough of those, and you don't need very much tissue. Typically 60 to 80 gram give you 50 million of cells. And the interesting is, if you process the adipose tissue within an hour, you can recover those cells and use them again to inject them into other organs for regeneration. The next big source of stem cells, I think, is the umbilical cord tissue cell, which is complementary to the umbilical cord blood cells. The umbilical cord tissue cells are about the best cells you have ever in life, because their genetic stability is the best, their telomeres are the longest, and you find a high number of those cells in the umbilical cord when you process it. So I think this source will play a major role in the future for regeneration, and you can bank them also. And if you use them in a matched allogenic way, I think that will be for the future one of the major sources which we will rely on. I mean, at present, the major interests are those areas where you see aging. Aging in the human body is not a universal and synchronous event. Dependent on your life experience and the diseases you had and injuries, aging is different in people. But in general, orthopedic indications are the ones where we see a degeneration. That means joints with age, and the cartilage damage is a very widespread global aging problem. And stem cells, as I will show later on in my talk, have an incredible ability to regenerate the cartilage. We have a study just finished where in a 1-year follow-up we show 95% of the cartilage in patients treated with stem cells forms true cartilage in the histology. So a 3-layer hyaline cartilage has been formed. So these are indications for injuries like in tendons, for example in horses, in race horses which have a lot of tendon injuries. Stem cells are fantastic in healing and shortening that. Stem cells are also very good for regeneration of the heart, because organs that have a terminal differentiated cell population, that means cells that don't divide themselves anymore, are running out of their reserved power of regeneration, like the heart and the brain. So currently the biggest experience we have in cosmetic applications, regeneration of the skin, which is often damaged by ultraviolet light, age, sun impact, and smoking. So you can regenerate the elastic fibers with stem cells. You also can build up new tissue in the breast after, for example, an operation. And also hematological diseases and autoimmune diseases are amenable to treatment with stem cells.